Hey everybody, this is Lightstar.
And this is Standswithbear.
And you are here at Starseed Alliance International.
That's right. And we have a awesome program for you today. We're going to be speaking on starseed relationships. And don't forget, if you don't know what Starseed Alliance International is, subscribe.
We like to bring you guys some great content, and that's what we're gonna do. So
to start it off, we've had quite a few people ask us about this very thing. There's relationships, and then there's starseed relationships, which takes it to a whole different level.
it's a very different thing when you're talking about the spiritual relationships and then starseed relationships that really have some uniqueness to them. And we wanted to bring a few things that have just happened in our own relationship to kind of share that what's going on with us, how it's changed, what the different unique things are, and with some humor as well.
Of course, we wouldn't be us if we didn't have the humor, as you've probably seen in the past.
It's quite a fun little place that, in our relationship with around here, it's not your normal kind of average, everyday type of relationship, right?
It's not your ordinary relationship. It's not even that of the mundane. Just saying.
I live with an elf, and I live with a galactic being, and I live with an angelic being, and you put all these beings together, and you get what? My little Nelf, as I call him sometimes.
Right, and my beautiful Lightstar is like, half goddess, oracle, amazing little elven fairy herself. And one thing that we recognize...
It gets kind of crowded in here.
Yeah, just a little bit, especially when all of our ancestors start popping in and out, because they do that often. So one thing that we would definitely want to make clear in a star being relationship or starseed relationship, if you're having difficulty in that relationship, one of the first things you need to do is honor each other. Honor the God and the goddess within each of you. Honor the master that each of you are, because each one of you were brought together for a purpose. And many of you power couples understand that. So you have to have room and allow the breath between you. You have to allow her to be and do what she does best.
That would be me.
That would be Lightstar or
and
you out there.
You have to allow him to also express himself, because he needs a place of expression and also a place to be loved and supported and honored for the beautiful soul that he is as well. Now, we're not saying that it's going to be perfect and roses all the time, because that would be ridiculous. And to say that would be just really dishonest and not true. And we're all here about, transparency and bringing what's really true. So we want to give some things to kind of also help you out in some of those difficult times or challenging times. We can just share some of the things that maybe have helped us as well to get kind of past that. Because when you get two starseeds together, powerhouses that are used to kind of being in these roles, or even if they're not used to it being in those roles and now being placed in those roles, it brings up sometimes some power struggles, to be honest.
Absolutely. When you have two alpha dogs, male and female, there's definitely bound to be some kind of skirmish. And you have to learn how to navigate the waters, so to speak, when to puff up your chest and be that, and when to reside and just be more calm. That you cannot allow your ego self to come forward and try to take command over everything, because that's just not going to work, especially with the goddess who's pretty much Wonder Woman. Yeah, not going to happen, fellas. Okay, just saying.
And I didn't even realize so much that I was kind of alpha male until I got into this kind of relationship with someone who is kind of alpha male. So it really brought it out in me that in a way I didn't realize it.
Alpha male.
And if you really want to be alpha male, I suppose that you can have that. You can have that, but I don't particularly like it for myself, because
And she's sweet. She said I could have that.
You could have
What a
it.
sweetheart. Just gotta love her.
You can be alpha male, and you can have that all. You can have my alpha male if you want, because I don't even want to be that. But it does sometimes come out, and it comes out in the commander, in the commandress, when we get into our, sort of royalty somewhat mode, I suppose. But sometimes we just have to kind of pull back the reins and just allow and be in more of that sort of equality relationship. So easier said than done sometimes. But
Right, which is what I mean by in the beginning, when we spoke in the beginning, when we started here, you have to allow the breath between you. You have to allow the relationship to breathe. Lightstar, that reminds me, I was doing a show and I talked to this old couple, and 72 years they've been together. And I was like, okay, I have to ask, what's your secret? And you won't believe what he told me. He goes, it's quite simple, really. She's always right. Period. She's always right. That's longevity. That's the way it
hey,
works.
I kind of go with that one. I
Happy
think that's
wife,
good.
happy life. Simple as that. And he goes, in the event that she's ever wrong, refer to rule number 1.
She's always right.
So I took that to heart, because no matter how many times, guys, we try to finagle our way into what we believe is our truth, most of the time, she kind of is already right. Especially being Aquarian. For all you Aquarians out there, my girl's an Aquarian. They know everything, okay?
Well,
you can't tell them anything because they freaking know it already. Not kidding.
I was just talking to my friend about this too, where I was saying that, it's not that I personally have to be right, or I don't have a have to be right complex.
Yes,
but
you do.
It's more about I really like to get to the truth of it, regardless of who's right or who's wrong. It just so happens to be that I'm right maybe 90% of the time.
Yeah.
But
see what I'm saying?
Just kidding.
See what I have to live with?
We're joking about some of this stuff, but it is because we have to make light of it. That's the main thing that we want to get across to you guys, is that sometimes the relationship arguments and fights that you might have, really 95% of the time, do you know how you stop them? You start cracking a joke, or somebody just says something so out of the blue that it makes you both just stop and just start laughing.
And we do that all the time.
And it breaks the ice like you wouldn't believe.
Right. And the one thing that I realized with that is, let me ask you folks, what do you think makes a relationship a longevity? Do you think it's the beauty of the person? Do you think it's how much money they have? Do you think, there are many ideas that people have. But the bottom line is, you want to find the person that you're going to go into life with, that you can communicate with. Because when the days come when you're 70 years old and you got nothing better to do than to talk to your other half, you better believe you better be able to converse with them.
And assuming that is that the other person can hear at that point. They may have lost their hearing. But if they still have their... Hey?
Oh, yeah, I love you too. Yeah.
What'd you say? I have to take out the garbage? Oh, okay.
I'm not loving that.
So, yeah, if you can still hear, that would be awesome when you can communicate. But yes, he's so right. With communication is absolutely key. In any relationship, if you can get through the communication thing, you can really work through anything.
Right. And the big one that I had learned, huge, from my beautiful Lightstar, boundaries. Okay? Boundaries.
Yeah,
are
you
a
didn't have any
huge thing.
boundaries when we first met.
I didn't know what? What's
Like,
that?
what's a
I don't
boundary?
know what that is. Walking in the bathroom, when they're taking it out. Excuse me. Sorry. I just did that. Real time. Just happened. Sorry about that. We were raised completely different. Okay, many of you already know I was raised, kind of redneck cowboy construction Catholic. And now I'm a recovered Catholic. And she came from a different background as well. So we can only go from our reference point of what we have learned from our parentage, the way we were raised. And we understand as you get older, I am not my father, I am not my mother, I'm a sovereign being of the universe, and you get that, and you understand that. But many of us loop the way we were raised, okay? So boundaries are very important, to honor each other's boundaries, and it takes a long time to do that. Lightstar said the most eloquent thing. She told me one time. She said, the first 50 years of our life, we're unraveling all the crap that our parentage and everything like that screwed up. In the last 50 years, we actually get to be us and do what we came here to do.
Well, I also feel sometimes it feels like you spend the first sort of 40 years just getting messed up by everything, and then you get to unravel the next 40 years, however long we live, and that's when we can try to start really being who we are, like who we are, not who our parents imposed us upon us, or who we think we're supposed to be, but we actually start to become who we are. But what happens when you get into a relationship, though, is that all of your stuff is mirrored right in your face. So anything that you haven't worked through yet, all of your triggers that are still from childhood start to come out in the relationship. Boom, right in your face. And especially one that you're that's very much maybe different from you, but is showing you the things that you really need to see about yourself that maybe you haven't looked at yet. The mirror on the wall is really true. And who's the fairest of them all?
And
that would be me probably. But I don't know. Maybe.
This room got real full of your ego all of a sudden. Like, I'm going to grab a pen in a minute.
Well, who's the fairest of them all? Well, we both have pretty fair skin, so I don't even know. That actually could be a tie right there.
That's funny. So, in hindsight, looking at things, in every relationship you get into, especially starborn relationships, starseed relationships, there's a tug of war. There's a thing that happens of supremacy, who's the alpha dog in the relationship. And it's not about that. So many of us men have been trained that way. I mean, I grew up with Charles Bronson, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, where John Wayne would just grab the woman and kiss her into submission, and that was cool to us, right? That ain't gonna play in today's world, guys. Okay, not gonna happen. All right, so we need to maintain and get out of our own ego. A lot of us have too much of that. The ego is a personification that you literally created that wasn't there before. It usually starts when you're in school and you get beat up or something like that, and then something pops in and goes, I'll save the day, I'll help you. And then once that happens, every single time you try to deter from that, that little voice goes, you need me. You remember what I did for you back, blah, 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 blah. So a symbiotic relationship begins to build between you and that ego. And then over the years, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Pretty soon, Lightstar is like a cat. You try to grab off the couch. It digs its claws in the couch and doesn't want to let go. Okay.
And it's funny because we have different things that we were grown up with, right? Like we have the John Wayne, Charles Bronson on, and that's what the little boys are showed to be. And then we have the women are shown like, oh, Prince Charming, he's gonna come, not Mary Poppins, no, but like Prince Charming is gonna come on his white horse and come and save me and whisk me away, and it's gonna be this perfect thing with all the roses. That's what Hollywood lets us see as little girls. Like that's what it's supposed to be. So we're just supposed to be these little waifs that kind of just float into the wind until this knight in shining armor comes and saves us. And it's like, so we have these roles that we've watched and grown up with, and then we have to sort of go, wow, we're going to impose that expectation on the person that have in front of me, and boy, how's that going to work out? When they don't live up to the expectation that it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. When you think about the roles of men, back then we were the hunters, we're the gatherers, protectors of the family. We're still the protectors of the family, but we're not so much the hunters and gatherers anymore. The scenario kind of goes like this. Honey, I did it. I went to the store and I did it. I stocked that damn gallon of milk and I caught it when it wasn't looking, and I got it. I did it for you. Just you. Okay? I mean, that's what we do. What do we stock a gallon of milk now? Hunters, gatherers? No, so our role has been changed. and evolved. You know, if you're not evolving, you're dying. Simple as that. So you have to evolve with the times, and you have to evolve with what happens during those times. We grow and evolve within ourselves, so naturally, relationships will do the same. Lightstar and I, when we first got together, we have evolved so far from where when we first began, and have become a more of a comfortable situation and understanding between us.
Yes, he's like the old shoe.
That's so true. You know
Comfortable
what?
old shoe.
No, seriously, we've been together a few different lifetimes, and there was no courtship. Okay, it
Yeah,
was just
this
like
is very different than your average. Your average relationship has all the sparks and the chemistry that flies and like whatever in the face of it. We were like friends the first, like, we were just friends only, and
Right.
for like months on end, and there wasn't any of that stuff. But it was like really like a comfortable shoe. We felt
know.
like we just kind of this is.
I'm like, I see her and I'm like, hey, I remember you. What happened to you in 1742? You said you were going out for wood, and I haven't seen you since. Okay.
Yeah, so there's kind of different. It's funny that different relationships don't. Just the main thing that I want to get across with this is don't have an expectation about how you think that the right one is going to come along, and that the right person is supposed, like, again, that Prince Charming, or even for the men, thinking that Angelina Jolie or whatever is going to walk through the door and everything's going to be all hunky dory. It's not. We pose these expectations on people.
I love you, but if Angelina walked through the door, I'm just saying.
Well, sorry, I have,
She got her, Yeah.
But if we look at I forgot what I was saying now totally, because you brought that in. So.
What were you thinking about?
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I have a few of my own in my own head, and mine's secret, and I'm not telling.
So, like, here's a dynamic with us to give you guys an example what you may go through in a starborn starseed relationship. So you're sitting there watching a movie, and you both have never seen the movie, and you're very excited about seeing the movie, and man, I look over at Lightstar and I'm like, man, this is really good. This is a good movie. I'm liking this.
And I'm like, oh yeah, because that guy's going to jump over the fence and he's going to go down the street, and then that's going to be his mom on the other side. And I already know, like, what is going to happen, because every single time I have this weird thing about movies for some reason.
She
like,
just
I
can
totally
see what's going to
it.
happen before even.
And he's like,
never seen the movie, but
could I
she
just
sees what's
watch
going to
the
happen,
show?
right? And I'm kind of looking at her going, honey, I'm inside voice.
Can I just watch the show?
Inside voice, like to watch the movie. That'd be awesome. I don't need the narration, thank you. Inside voice.
But these are some of the unique things that, like, because we have, skills as, with Starseed, we have a lot of special, not special skills that nobody else has, but I'm just saying psychic abilities are one of the very, things that kind of come along with the territory.
Oh yeah,
So,
Christmas is just a riot. That's so much fun. You get the gift that you just know she's been wanting, and you hand it to her, and she's like, oh honey, thank you, it's just what I wanted. Oh, that's great. Could you open it first? That'd be great. Could you just open it? Thank you.
We try to be surprised now, because we already kind of know, and most of the time it's like the ahead of times, little clues that come in that you start getting it in your mind. So it's nice to be surprised, and just don't even worry about just try to be like you are completely devoid of having the psychic ability when you get a present. It's kind of a fun thing.
I know, we did that just last week. I looked at her and went, honey, you know about that
Yeah, and he just like looked right at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that thing. Oh yeah,
and she nailed it. Knew
Because-
exactly what I was talking about. So
This is the psychic telepathic thing that just happens. I
Yeah.
know it happens between a lot of couples, because you hear this as the longer they sit next to each other. Like, we used to sit, we still do this to this day. I'll be sitting there on the couch and I'll be thinking in my head, I kind of feel like I want that coconut ice cream that's in the freezer. And before I even say anything, he's like, oh, I'll get it for you. And he gets up and gets it and brings it over. It's like, oh my God, how did you know I was going to?
when we first got together, I'm a bit of a mischief elf, and I like messing with people because I just like that. It's fun. But when we first got together, It was hilarious because I used to like play little practical jokes and all kinds of stuff like that on her. I remember one time I had this app on my phone that was it basically finds ghosts, right? But the secret of the app was if you tap it a certain way when nobody's looking, then it's activated, right? So I went from room to room and going, no, it's clear, no spirits in here or anything. But then when I went in her room, it was like, and every place she went in the house, her office, the room, everything like that, I kept putting that around her, and she's freaking out, going, no way. What do you mean? There's, remember that?
It was only in the rooms that I was in, like every place else it wasn't, but it was only where I was, and I was starting to get worried. I was like, what? What? It's only around me? What is it? He'd be like, I don't know, babe. It just seems to be around you. He was totally making it happen, and I didn't know that. So it was kind of funny. We have a lot of jokes and funny things. He thinks he's really funny, and I don't.
Well, because I am. That's why. Yeah.
He is really funny, actually, I should say. But I'm very skittish, so I get very upset when my adrenals.
And that's what makes it so much fun.
My adrenal glands just went through my throat, and I'm like, oh my God. So.
I used to be an actor in several different haunted houses down in Phoenix, and I was really good at what I did. But so I wanted to also tell you guys that to understand the dynamics of a starseed relationship, the dynamics have to do with just like I said before, honoring each other. The other dynamic is to recognize one another when they need their space. Recognize when they need that time to themselves, because each one of us have our own path, and each one of us has our own missions, so to speak, our own downloads that we get. Mm-hmm. And to be quite honest, sometimes that download has nothing to do with you. It's not all about you. It's about one-on-one relationship with you and the Creator first. Creator first, relationship
That's what
second.
we always have a little ladder, I suppose, which is going to be spirit or God first. Mm-hmm. Then your relationship with you, meaning your
right.
own relationship with yourself,
and
then the others, and then the others is like everything having to do with relationships. That could be intimate relationships, it could be mother-daughter, father-son, all the different types of relationships. Because if you start to put them in a different order, you start to feel like it's not really working out so great. So, we always say that. Why do you think that couples pray, right? I mean, we're not trying to get religious or anything, but trying to put it on where you're actually bringing spirit into the relationship. So that's why you put God first. You put it in God's hands. A lot of times when we don't know what to do, I always put it in God's hands. I'm like, I don't know right now what to do, so I put it up to spirit, my angels, whatever, our guides that can assist us. And that can actually bring it around somehow in a way that you wouldn't even understand yourself or wouldn't be able to figure it out. But all of a sudden something just shifted and you don't know how that happened. You thank you, God.
That's why I say, go ahead and make plans and watch God sit back and laugh.
Yeah.
Because what you think is your life and what the Creator knows is your life are two totally different things.
Yeah.
There are many of the relationships that come together that are preordained to be together from a long, long time ago. On YouTube, you can see the talk that I did and Lightstar did at the Cosmic Awakening Conference. And in that conference, in my speech, I talk about, towards the end of it, how her and I had met long before we even knew that we were to be together. So there's some relationships out there that's like I guess you call it a preordained destiny, but it's because these power couples come together and they literally not only shift the energy of an entire room that they walk in, but the hearts of people and the presence of people and the power behind it is phenomenal.
And I mean, really, to say that these are contracts that were made prior to us coming into our incarnation. We did make these contracts. Sometimes you might question the contract, like, did I really sign the dotted line here? And yes, we did sign the dotted line. doesn't mean, so you have to look at the reasoning behind why you signed the contract, and that actually can give you, especially when you're in sort of the trenches and feeling deep down kind of, I just want to punch that person in the stomach. Like, let's just get real. Sometimes that happens, the human emotion kind of comes in. If we can start to take it up to, what was the real contract? Why did we truly come into this relationship in the first place? What was the real... And you start to go back to that, it actually starts to shift the energy as well.
Yes.
Very powerful.
It's interesting because an old master that's a good friend of mine, I was explaining to him about that very thing. And we were... I love that sometimers thing, when you're talking away and it's right over your head. And that rewind.
Well, I don't know what you were going to say. Hey, we're keeping it real here.
Hey, it's the heat, man. The heat's getting to us, right?
Yeah, we're sitting in this room and it's like really hot in here. I'm like starting to get...
Okay, so I rewound and I'm back again.
Okay.
So basically what I was going to say is that in our relationship, that sometimes is preordained. In those relationships, whose idea was it to bring an indigo and a crystalline child together? I'm indigo, she's crystalline. Now the dynamics of that, just like a bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly aerodynamically, scientifically, but it still does, is that our relationship works because it's supposed to work, and because we put time and effort into making it work. There's a lot of dynamics that I have as an indigo that crystalline don't like, and there's a lot of things that indigo don't like about, we're all the warrior kind, the ones that bust through everything to make an easier path. Crystalline are all about the love and light of the planet and peoples at all costs. So sometimes we're a bit abrupt, and we don't mean to be, it's just how we are. We're very intense, we're very, we make good speakers and leaders, and the list goes on and on. But what the old master told me, he says, well, you're the perfect yin and yang.
And it's true that there are some things that I know for a fact that I have learned through this process, and I'm sure that he has as well, that, seeing the opposites or being in the face of, that kind of chaotic energy, at least let's say for a crystalline. I kind of have a little bit of both, or a little bit of all these different traits of all the rainbows and all that, but I definitely feel more crystalline at heart. Like, that's where I truly love to be. That's what I want, is more peaceful, kind of calming energy. Well, it's not so much like that with an indigo. They're not really the most peaceful and calming energy in the world to be around. And so I've had to kind of learn, it sort of pushed me to actually be more indigo in some ways, where it's kind of like where I have learned to sort of stand up for my rights and, for what I feel is true and for so there's something to be said. And for him, I've seen the indigo starts to realize that it's not always about chaotic energy, that is like a thing, that sometimes being calm and calming yourself is actually really positive and a good thing. So these are just some of the examples where I feel like we have learned from the other person because of those. It is because of the opposites attract, but we're really getting in more of a communion with who we are and blending together. So
and I'll be the first to admit, I've learned a tremendous amount from you. One of the biggest things that you gave to me, which was just amazingly beautiful, was to walk in quiet power. So many people are out there, jumping on the mountain screaming, I'm this, I'm that, this is a blah, 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 blah. And they don't even have to do that. There are beings here that when you walk into a room, people just want to know who you are. They want to be around you. They want to feel that energy. They want what you got. And guess what? That's why we're here. We're to show them that they do have that, to remember that, and to awaken that within them.
And I've always been, that is something that I've always kind of felt is important, to have that kind of quiet power. So when I saw him initially, when we were first together, there was a lot of the chaotic energy, and you know, and I was kind of just saying, you know, you don't really need to actually be that. You don't really need to do that. You can just be yourself and really kind of have that energy within, and it comes across to people. You don't have to say that. Well, he still does that.
I was a little intense.
But then again, there is some beauty to having the intensity of the indigo, who really does have that sort of call to action to people when they walk into a room, or, you know, really people listen to them, and, you know, and that's kind of like, so it's a balance of energy. It really is. You know, when we work with people in client work, that is when it really comes into play, where
Absolutely.
we see this like really great balance between, you know, this sort of indigo crystalline energy with people.
It's like running a race, you know, handing off the baton and go, you know, and then
Yeah.
she runs around the track and then she hands it off to me, and then I'm back around the track, and it's back and forth. But it's such a beautiful symbiotic wave
balance.
of balance, just flowing in and flowing out like the ocean. It's so amazing, and it's just amazing to me every time we do one of those sessions that we do together. The dynamic between us is just phenomenal. So
yeah, so maybe let's just hopefully everything we've said to you guys today, we definitely want, hopefully that's helped you guys in some way.
I will tell you this. In a starseed relationship, once you have the balance, I will tell you that it becomes a very magical world. In our home, we got elves and fairies and gnomes and all kinds of stuff, and dragons. You know, I used to send my gnomes to mess with her when we first got together in our relationship and stuff, you know. And of course, she'd send her dragons after it, and they'd be like, "We hate the dragons." You know.
Well, the gnomes don't bother me anymore, because I've learned about when they take your keys and hide it, and they love to do stuff like that. They used to like to take things and hide it from me.
Yeah.
Now they don't do that anymore, because I've kind of learned how to work with them and stick my dragons on them, and now they don't do it at all anymore because of that. But just kidding.
And if you don't believe in gnomes and fairies and elven and dragons, well, you just haven't been listening.
So we hope that this has been helpful to all of you. We'd love to have you guys put your comments in to, if you're watching it on YouTube, we'd love to see your comments, maybe some things about what's going on in, you know, relationships that you guys have had,
Yeah,
situations.
perhaps we can even, when we do the next one, we can address some of those questions.
Yeah, if you have questions, or if you just want to share in the comments about, you know, what you feel about your own relationships with starseeds and that kind of thing. But and if you would like to have session work with us as well, we also offer an ACT session, which is called our Activational Co-Creative Therapy Session, which you can see on our Starseed Alliance International.com website. And then you can also check us, our individual websites at, mine is lightstarcreations.com.
And mine is standswithbear.com.
So you can look at all the wonderful things that we do as individually and also together. So I think that's it for now.
Yep, I just want to perform a bit of magic for you, okay? Take your magical little fingers and click on the button that says subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And we will see you out there in the cosmos. Blessings.